Hi, how you doing? This is my managing machine learning projects final project. And the problem that I would like to solve is, I'm a member of a nonprofit where I volunteer, and I'd like to develop a machine learning model to help identify donors. There's definitely a need to generate funding from donors in order to remain solvent. This is a problem that members of the organization and the broader community care about, and it's something that could be addressed by machine learning. It might take a couple iterations for it to be, uh, a really great solution, but I think there could be massive improvement even in initial model that we could put together. And so, defining success, of course, outcome and output. Um, for outcome, I guess just to kind of properly frame it, at the moment we don't really have a coherent plan in terms of how we engage with potential donors or try to interact with those type of folks. And so, because we don't really have a coherent plan, my outcomes, the model outcomes, may be kind of basic, but I think they would be these simple outcomes would be tremendous. And so, the first would just be an increase in non-member donations. I don't have a number against that, just an increase in general. Also, this would help us provide a coherent donor capture strategy for our organization, which then we could build upon later. As far as the model's output, again, this may seem like a very small benchmark, but at least 50% accuracy in predicting whether a person will donate. And then as we build the model and then we continue to update the model, we can further develop information on the key features that can be utilized in our strategy. So for our validation, our initial concept, we would be looking at a categorization model built through neural networks to predict a target. So a supervised model with a target of donation being one or no donation being zero by potential donors. And the initial focus for validation would be on the accuracy of our model. Um, this modeling would be completed in a Jupyter notebook, and the initial challenge I foresee would be the training and test data to get good quality data. For the system design, again, we would have multiple components to house and interact with our data, but our actual modeling would be done in a standalone Jupyter notebook. That initial data that we would already have, but we need to consolidate and clean up, would serve as our training and testing data. Obviously, there's some challenges there, and I'll talk through that in more detail in the risks. For us, we would be updating this model periodically, retraining. And so for us, latency would not be a concern. And as I kind of alluded to earlier, new data would be captured through entry forms that are stored in a SharePoint list. And so there isn't a need for immediate update or results of the model. I would say probably on a monthly basis, we would update our models and go on with our strategy planning and basically evaluate our results and adjust from there. Um, Future iterations, it would be great to integrate whatever our user interface is, our actual data that we've collected, and then the model all in one package. But for this would be a very, very basic design as our first version. So again, potential risks, there's quite a bit here when it comes to the data cleanup. So kind of in the development phase and beyond, we would have to do a little bit, quite a bit of initial foundational work to get this up and running in terms of gathering and cleaning up our training and testing data. As I mentioned before, we don't have a coherent plan, and part of that is we got a lot of silos. So whatever data we do have about who has donated, any demographics, dollar amounts, things of that nature, it's all siloed. So we'd have to collect all of that, consolidate it, clean it up, and then also we would likely have to augment it. And so within the data, there could be lack of data points, or we just may not have enough. And so we may have to acquire data from other like organizations, whether it's underneath the same parent as ours or even similar in our area that we could reach out to and potentially get their information. Obviously, there'd be some privacy concerns, but if we could anonymize it, then I think that we should be able to leverage that. But that would be kind of in the development phase, the big risks that I foresee. In the future, though, for production, we'd have very related, heavily related risks. So training serving skew could be an issue, um, because if we are having to augment our data, like I would assume we probably would have enough observations for our model, then once we're actually seeing the results on the ground of actual demographics, actual features, and their impact on our model may no longer be as accurate because the training data that we had wasn't representative of the actual factors on the ground. And similarly with data drift, we're talking about donations, and so there's always different impacts that can change that. Seasonality obviously can be a factor we'd have to worry about. Anytime you're asking people for money, and we're going through seasons like holiday season where they're already strapped for cash, so to speak, you're probably less likely to get those donations. But on a broader scale, there could be other things over multi-year cycles that I'm not aware of, but could be a factor, or just in general economic downturns or changes in of some of large magnitude could change people's willingness to donate. And so those are just the initial risks that I saw in this model, and that completes my brief.